Okay, so this is one of my favorite brew methods, the Chemex, partly just because it looks stinking cool. There's a cool history behind that, but we'll go into that another time. But tell me about the Chemex.
Yeah, so the Chemex is a fantastic brew method, excellent for when you want to make more than 1 cup of coffee. It really excels at making between like 2 and 4 cups.
And if I look here, this is like the V60, except that there's no swirls, but it's got a massive hole that pours straight down into that. So,
similar idea to the V60, but it brews very differently because it doesn't have those ridges on the inside.
Okay. Yeah. So now, if we're looking at the Chemex filter, again, we've talked about the importance of particular filters. This is a Chemex filter. That is what we need. When I first did this, and I opened it up and saw nothing but a square, I thought to myself, what the heck am I getting myself into? So tell me how to do this right.
So you want it to start folded up into one piece, and then you're going to come in here and you're going to see, okay, there's 4 pieces of paper. You want to separate one from the other 3, and then just kind of stick your hand down in there, and that's going to open up into our nice cone.
Fair enough.
And the reason we want to have 3 pieces, 3 extra thick on one side and thinner on the other, is this is going to help support the paper so it doesn't fall down into the spout.
Okay, because if it falls into the spout,
it would cause kind of a vacuum, and the water would stop flowing, and it would just kind of get stuck.
Gotcha.
So, same as with all of our other methods, I definitely want to preheat and pre-wet my filter. The Chemex filters are heavier, are a thicker gauge paper, and you want to be a little bit more generous with your pre-wet on them.
And if you're using the brown unbleached paper filters, you're going to need to put a ton of water on there, because when you do that, when you pre-wet the filter, you're going to smell massive paper smell. You're going to feel like you're in a paper factory. You want to rinse that out because that will translate into your coffee, and that's no fun. So again, we're using the water to preheat our cup as well.
And drip on the floor, but you know, it happens.
If you have a dog,
so for this recipe, I'm doing a 2 cup.
Okay.
So I'm using 40 grams of coffee. Every piece of equipment is going to be calibrated slightly different. Even if you have the same exact grinder at home, it's going to be different than ours.
Okay, so we'll use 18 as a benchmark, and then one of the ways that we can test that to know if we're too coarse or too fine is based on total brew time. So Ian's going to talk about that in a minute. We're using 40 grams of coffee, so using our 15:1 ratio, that's going to translate to 600 grams, putting that math degree to good work.
That's
and
right.
so that's how that's going to work. So we're going to keep that ratio. That'll give us 2 cups. I know you and your wife like to do that a lot in the mornings, right?
We do, yeah. Now, same idea as other pour over methods. I want to add my coffee, give it a gentle shake so that it's nice and level before I start pouring. And since I have more coffee, I'm going to use more water for my bloom. So once again, I'm going to start my timer, and I'm going to gently add, this time more like 60 grams of coffee.
So on the V60,
water,
we did
sorry.
30 grams of water for the bloom-ish, and then after 30 seconds, we went up to about 100, and then 150, and then 300 in increments of 30 seconds. Do we just double that here?
Sort of, but not quite. So I do like to do kind of 3 pulses of water plus the bloom. So and I like to break the water up into those 3 chunks. So I'll bloom, and then I'll go up to 200 grams, up to 400 grams, and then up to 600, and that'll be it.
Simple enough.
So my bloom is finished, so I'm going to add water up to 200 grams.
And again, we're doing circular motions, being careful not to hit the filter itself. If you hit the filter, the water's going to just go straight down the side. You don't get any extraction there.
I also don't want to extract the flavor of the paper filter, so I avoid pouring on it.
Makes
I'm
sense.
going to just stick on the coffee. So after, at about a minute total time, I'm going to add my second part of water, up to 400 grams this time. And I'm going in circular motion, and I'm trying to just make sure that the whole surface is evenly submerged. I don't want any dry spots. I don't want to see any spots that are getting all the water.
Your water pour method looks almost like those old spirograph games where it's a big circle and you're kind of going around in a circle like that, as opposed to one big massive concentric circles, and that's going to keep the coffee evenly extracted and agitated, right?
Definitely.
I feel evenly agitated right now.
I can see that.
Yeah.
It's probably because you burned your tongue.
On that French press video that we filmed 2 weeks ago.
That's
or
right.
10 minutes ago.
One of those.
All
I
right.
can't quite remember.
Something like that.
So, and again, a good barometer of if I'm pouring evenly is if as the coffee, as it's draining, if I see a nice even bed of grounds underneath. All right, so at about 2 minutes, I'm gonna add my final pulse of water. So I'm gonna bring the whole level up to 600 grams at this point. And I'm pouring in circles and kind of just making sure that everything is evenly submerged.
Now, I know some of you out there are thinking, you know, am I really going to spend this much effort every single morning to make a cup of coffee? My friends tease me because I wake up 15 minutes earlier than I should so that I can make my pour over at home. I mean, is it really worth it?
Once you've done it a few times and tasted the result, I'd say absolutely.
That's what I tell my friends as well.
Yeah.
They still think I'm crazy, because I am.
Indeed. So, and a good test, like Nate said earlier, is if my grind setting is correct, this whole batch should finish brewing at about 4.5 minutes. And I'll know it's done when, at the moment, I have a nice steady stream of coffee flowing from the top into the bottom beaker. When that stream breaks and kind of starts dripping, that's when my batch is done and I pull the filter off.
Sounds great.
All right, so you can see that the stream is kind of getting thinner, and I'm really watching for when it starts to just turn into drips, which it's right on the edge of doing.
And we're at 3.5 minutes right now, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. And our target was between 4 and 4.5 minutes. So we're close. The taste is likely to be ever so slightly thin. And so what we'd want to do then is tighten our grind ever so slightly. So we were on an 18 grind setting. We might go for a 17 or a 16 next time. Something tells me it's not going to be the end of the world. It's still going to taste pretty dang good.
It's still going to be excellent, just a little bit brighter.
I like bright.
And before I serve it, I always like to grab it by the neck. The glass is very hot, and just give it a little swirl. Make sure I dump my rinsing water out of the cup. That would be a very weak cup of coffee.
That'd be extremely weak, very thin.
And go ahead and pour this up. And again, that was a 2-cup recipe, so I have a cup to share with a friend. We'll see if Nate's deserving.
I don't know that I am.
Yeah. And that's that.
Beautiful.